Welcome to episode 6 of the Podcast. My name is Jason Priebe.
I'm Austin Boniface.
And I'm Mike Challe.
And we're going to jump right into it today. You know, the U.S. economy's secret weapon. What's going on? That's the headline in the Wall Street Journal. And, you know, for the last 15 months, 18 months, we've had nothing but conversation about how we're going to go into a recession. The economy's, you know, it's getting slower. It's getting weaker. It's not going to hang on. Bad stuff is coming. I don't know. You name it. It's been a headline. So what's going on?
People keep spending. There's a lot of people with more money than it appears out there. And focusing on retirement planning today and retirement age people, it's people with 65 and older with money to spend. 17.7% of the population is 65 or older right now. That's the highest on record going back to 1920, up 13% since 2010. We talk a lot about demographics and the trends and the impacts they have. This is a big one. That same group, 17.7% of the population, accounts for 22% of the spending last year. That's up 15% since 2010. So, you know, maybe that's where some of this wave of consumer spending is coming from, these retirees.
Is this a case of follow the money? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how quickly. Can you find a number? How much money? What's the wealth of each generation? I mean, baby boomers have to have. You know, we know they're one of the wealthiest generations. There's going to be a huge, you know, transition of wealth, but before that wealth is transitioning, they're spending it. And that's what we're seeing, right? I mean, that's part of what's driving the economy here.
Think high wealth and housing, right? Either low mortgage rates, high home equity, so low shelter cost is contributing to that excess income.
And let's circle back to this same group accounted for 22% of spending last year. That's up since 2010. If we go back to 2010, they only accounted for 15% of spending. Yeah. Okay, so that's
I have it for you.
A big increase.
Baby boomers, wealth, 78.1 trillion, approximately 50%.
Right. So those who have money are deciding to spend it. They don't want to just wait to pass it on to the next generation entirely. They want to spend it now and they want to enjoy it. You know, their early years of retirement for a lot of them yet, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing them spend their money.
That's a theme too. And another note, you look at some of these earnings reports for airlines, airline ticket prices, American cruise lines with double-digit sale growth over the last couple of years. They said these baby boomers going on trips, taking their families on trips, most likely, taking the grandkids out to Florida, or maybe they.
The article went into had a few quotes from like people surveyed and interviewed, and it was essentially like, your whole life it's save, 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 and now I'm not saving. Like a lot of the money, based on the article at least, is going towards what you just said: family trips, time, money spent to go visit maybe siblings, or not siblings, but kids that live out of state, things like that.
Yeah.
Things that are important to them. Could also be, COVID, how many people had cause of death of COVID?
We have clients out there. You have clients out there. We all have clients out there. You know who you are. We talk to you regularly about spending money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Talk about it all the time.
Don't wait to pass all your money on to the next generation, to your kids, until after you're gone.
If you don't fly first class, your kids will. Yep. Live rich, don't die rich. I have to remind that to clients all the time. It goes back to the heart of what we do as advisors, is helping clients, helping spenders save and savers spend. So I'm a huge proponent of all this stuff.
And there's no reason this can't continue, right? This is going to be a weapon for the economy.
I would say on the vast majority of our clients who are 65 and older, we have more underspenders than overspenders.
Yeah.
And the underspenders are so far underspending what they can afford to spend that our conversations when we're reviewing and we're meeting with them are, what do you want to do with this money? And one of the things we've started to do is we'll show them the graph out of the projection of their net worth when they're 90, 95, 100, if they keep spending at the marginal rate that they're spending at now relative to their net worth. And are they really being intentionally doing that? Do they really intentionally want to continue to build their wealth to those levels? Or do they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor to a certain extent and still pass money on? Don't get me wrong, but enjoy it now.
It can be I think we've seen it be eye-opening.
Family vacations. I'm a huge fan of family vacations. We've been seeing that a little bit more. We've been trying to push that a little bit more. I think it's a great way to, prioritize some of the most important things in your life, your family,
For sure.
the people around you, and the things you want to do.
And they're able to pay for it.
And you're spending the money. So you get to
Exactly.
decide where you're headed. If you want to go to the beach and that's where you want to bring your family, go to the beach. If you want to have it more of an adventure and out west or in the mountains or wherever, you can decide. You're bringing them. And I still have yet to see a family or a kid say no to the parent that's offering to bring their family on
Ain't
a
no
vacation.
such thing as a free
Memories.
vacation, Jason.
The memories are priceless, right?
A lot of the children too would rather have gone on that family vacation than have an extra, $10,000 of inheritance, and
For sure.
do it while you're 65 because you're not going to want to do it when you're 75.
Right.
And if you're 75 and you still have the wealth and you're not spending your Social Security check, give the money to your kids now. Don't wait until you die.
Watch them
Your kids
enjoy
need
it
it now. Your grandkids need it now. Help pay for a grandkid's college or, build your legacy while you're alive instead of when you're gone. I think is a huge trend we're seeing in our clients.
A legacy can start now. It doesn't have to wait till you pass. A legacy.
Because it'll ultimately, it's how your grandkids will remember you too. Using that example.
Yeah, it might not be easy to relate as a 65-year-old to a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, but you know what?
They'll find
The
out.
joy of a vacation is pretty darn relatable.
Right.
The conversations that can come up on a vacation because you force them to get out of their comfort zone and they're extremely appreciative and they enjoy doing that too. There's a lot of conversations there that happen and bonding that happens that would not otherwise happen. So we might be advisors and we our core might be day in and day out telling you how to save and what you need to build your net worth to in order to be able to retire comfortably or do what you want to do comfortably. But at the end of the day, I prefer to think that we are pushing spending more than anything.
Depends
Within
on the situation.
within your levels. So just thought that was really interesting how we are seeing a lot more of what's driving the economy. I think it's spending. And
at
this circles
restaurants.
back to unemployment rates are still extremely low. And so until you really get that to flip around, I think you're going to continue to see an economy that is more resilient and stronger than people want to give it credit for.
Yeah. Scary thought there, though. Does it cascade downwards if we get a really bad market and now seniors get nervous and slow their spending? And
It'll also be interesting to see how it changes as that generation gets older and older.
we'll talk about this at a different episode, but another interesting thing is the concept of the peak millennial, right? The number of 33, 34-year-olds there are in this economy that are at their peak earning years. They're maxing out their 401ks. They're at peak spending. There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot more money out there, and things are a little bit brighter than they might look when you turn on the news.
Even when we think about the cost of everything going up and inflation and how hard the younger generations might have it, if you look at it where baby boomers were at 20 to 30 years old versus where every generation thereafter is at for that same age bracket, every generation thereafter is better off with where they're at financially and their income and their situation than the prior generation. So despite all the headline and all the news, the statistics show us that things are actually getting better for every single generation as they slowly grow up. And I think that's it's going to continue to drive the economy. It's going to continue to be there. We are a country of consumers, a country of savers, and we have built up multi-generational wealth, and we're starting to see it in the resiliency of our economy. I think that's just a really simple answer. I don't think you need to get too in depth and overthink what's going on out there.
Speaking of 65 and older, 65 being the expected retirement age, when you dig into the data, it's actually more like 62. We're actually seeing more people retire a little bit early today than they expected. There's a Wall Street Journal article that was posted here. We'll include the link. But it says 28% of workers expected to retire at age 65. That's up 23% from a year ago. That remains the default age when you ask people. That's the median age. But in reality, the median age is 62, which is the earliest people can claim Social Security benefits. I don't know if there's a correlation here that says everyone retiring at 62 is taking Social Security at 62. I doubt that. There's also probably some, health differences and things like that, retiring for health reasons or stuff like that falls into this data. But what do you guys think about that trend? Is that something you see in working in this industry?
I want to know, I feel like from a young age, if you ask, high schoolers what age they want to retire, just an uneducated, someone who hasn't been in the workforce, 65 is always the age that's shot out. Is that because that's the first time Medicare. You can get out Medicare?
It was full retirement age for years, Medicare.
Yeah, for years it was full retirement age for Social Security too. Now that's slowly going up over time. But
yeah.
I think that's what it is. I think everyone just, there's just this assumption out there that
it's
65
the societal norm. Yeah.
You ask younger people today, and the expected retirement age is younger.
55.
Yeah. Maybe that's just
29.
The case of maybe that's just the case of a strong economy, right?
A strong economy and generations being wealthier and wealthier than the prior ones. So the expectations are getting higher.
Right. When does that change, right? You can't have generations getting wealthier and wealthier if they're working less and less.
The article also has it says the reality is 62, right? It also goes into actual versus expected data of retirees who say they will work in retirement to some varying degree or not. And I found this interesting because we hear this all the time, right?
Yes.
Like, I want to retire now. I can't do nothing in retirement. I'll find something I enjoy.
I'll get the side job.
Exactly. That's that always topical side job. And the data is what I expected there. A much higher amount of people think that they will do a side job than actually.
75% say they're going to get a side job. And the reality is...
30%.
The client story here of a client who she got laid off, kind of got forced into an earlier retirement than she wanted to. Plan was to always go back to work. And, we talked to her a couple years ago. Plenty of money. She doesn't need to go back to work. But she says, I have a full-time job. It's babysitting my grandkids. I think you see a lot of that too. A lot of, help out with the family and not a bad retirement gig if you ask me.
And that's multi-beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Grandparents are thrilled to be able to hang out with their grandkids and have that bond. Those parents are thrilled to not have to spend $500 a week per child for daycare because that's outrageous these days.
And
it's a win-win.
Talk about leaving a legacy too. What better way to spend time with your family than being able to watch your grandkids, right?
Right.
That's
the
something
grandkids are going to remember.
That's something they'll remember forever. So,
yeah.
How many of these early retirees you think are turning on Social Security at the same time?
Does it say?
It doesn't say.
I would imagine a high percentage.
I think so too. People are used to getting paid, and
I'm not opposed to that.
I'm not either. Depends on the situation.
For sure.
But
definitely situation dependent, but I'm not opposed to turning on Social Security early as opposed to waiting till later years.
Yeah, it just depends on kind of like we talked about last episode versus the income versus the lump sum. Depends how you handle your money.
Right.
If you're I call them chunk spenders. If you're somebody who's going to always want that new car, that new boat, well, I got to worry about how I can make your money last to 90 versus if you're somebody who, I'm going to spend $3,000 a month, a couple months I'll have an extra $5,000 expense here and there, but when I'm 75, it's going to be $3,000 a month,
The break-even point is sometime in your early 80s, early to mid 80s.
79, 81, depending, is the break-even.
Between 62 and full retirement age. And that's not adjusted for like opportunity cost, right?
Right, not at all.
Yeah.
I think the earlier you start working with us, the easier it is for us to give a recommendation on when to start Social Security, because it does come down to my confidence and their ability to stay within a spending budget, right? And if I've been working with you for 5+ years before retirement, I've got a lot more confidence in the numbers because I've seen the actual numbers over the course of 5 years to be able to see what you're spending and what you're doing. Versus if you come to me and you say, I want to retire in a year, we can have a good conversation on how much you're spending and what your budget is and how much you need. But at the end of the day, that's almost entirely built on your words being truthful.
Are you a skeptical person?
Just a little bit. Versus, if you give me 5 years, I don't have to rely on anything other than the actual numbers.
Right.
Right?
Speak for themselves.
Right.
We've seen people make budgets and seen people tell us how much they spend, and I know none of us here are large fans of budgets, but bear with me for a second. What are almost always you see clients forget in their budgets? They never account for, I'm going to probably need new tires every couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a new vehicle. They're
Gifting
these
is
chunk
commonly
things.
left out.
Yeah. It's
Even vacations to a certain extent, they'll put a little bit in there, but you're like,
Where are you going? Excuse me, sir. Where are you going for $300 a year?
yeah.
right. And so, I think it's really easy to budget the basic items. It's not easy to get all those extra items in. If you own multiple properties, how do you budget for the landscaping that needs to be updated? Even as simple as the mulch, right?
New deck.
A new deck.
Can be $12,000.
Life is not budgetable.
No,
That's a word.
It's not. And that's why expanding it over the course of a handful of years and really looking at the numbers to get an average as opposed to, well, this is how much I spent over the last 3 months. Well, that's great. That doesn't help us. Right. We can't extrapolate 3 months out to a year, but we can extrapolate 5 years down to 1 year budget.
On average, yeah.
Yep.
And, prepare for those large expenses. If you know you're going to need a new car in 5 years, well, let's start doing the tax planning for it now so you're not paying 20% more in income taxes, or you don't have to take out that 8-9% car loan because you prepared for it by taking extra distributions. Next thing we have is an interesting paper from the San Francisco Fed. This came out on people retiring or working after the pandemic. This is something that's kind of been beat to death. I know Dave and I, and over in my office at Legacy Capital, have talked about this trend, its impact on markets, its impact on our business. It's just these 55 and older workers, when the pandemic happened and they, maybe went on furlough or lost their jobs for a little bit, they just didn't go back to work. They got, $3,000 given to them in pandemic money. Markets crashed and it was scary. You had $3,000 to bridge, then they rallied back. You saw huge growth in equities, and the fixed income part of portfolios rallied hard then too. So you had a huge wealth effect following the pandemic, and not a lot of workers came back. So maybe this has something to do with that early retirement age that we talked about before. Maybe it won't always be 62. Maybe we'll see that drift back up, but. Yeah.
Numbers might be skewed from that, for sure.
But interestingly enough, in this paper, it talks about the education. So we'll pull this chart up here for you guys to look at. You see people with college degrees was always trending lower. Earlier retirement, educated workers were approaching, early retirements, 55 and earlier retirements, or exiting the labor force. But there was no trend lower with people with college degrees until the pandemic. You saw a huge, just straight up fall down of people working and didn't recover, which is interesting. You wonder why that is.
It was interesting that they both fell, whether it was college degree or without college degree.
Same.
They both fell the exact same percentage. And so I wonder if that has to do with more of their health. The same percentage fell on both sides because there's an equal proportional amount of people that, had health factors that, decided they wanted to stay out of the workforce after COVID and the pandemic. I'm not sure.
Yeah. The same thing, good market performance, I'm sure has something to do with it, and, pension income as well, right? Maybe those more blue-collar workforces had more pension income that they were able to turn on. And also, don't underestimate the impact of cash jobs for that cohort of people, right? I mean, if you're 57 and you were a union concrete worker or union bricklayer or something like that, I mean, there's a lot of people who would gladly pay somebody cash to, do some landscaping. Or if you're a union plumber, turn your pension on and supplement your income with some cash jobs, fixing some.
I would say that's the 30% of people that actually went out and did do something part-time in retirement, right?
Right. Yep. Speaking of retirement, there was an article in Bloomberg about what the average American says they need in dollars for retirement.
I have so many questions on this article.
These articles are always funny. They don't really do anything for anyone reading it, other than, I guess, spend a few minutes and kind of waste your time.
It either makes people feel good about themselves or bad about themselves, and that's it.
But it doesn't apply to your situation at all. Everyone's situation is completely different.
Average.
But people love to compare themselves against other people.
So the number, they say, is now 1.5 million, which conveniently goes back to Big Dog and Jerry last week, $1.5 million.
Congrats, Big Dog. You are
$60,000 in income,
exactly
right?
average.
You are what the average American needs.
Not even average. You are the expectation.
Yeah, you're the expectation. You are not the average, but you are the expectation.
And I have some data around the average, which is why I had so many questions.
All right, what is the average?
Okay. So this is close your ears. It's an Ed Jones article, but it has average retirement savings by age.
All right.
So we've talked about the average retirement being somewhere between 62 to 65.
Yep.
I'm going to use the 65 to 74 bucket because it's larger. Any guesses? Did you see it?
I can't read. I need new glasses.
1.46.
The average retirement balance by age.
Retirement account only?
It just says savings.
Okay. Let's do.
I think it's everything.
It's everything.
65 to 70. Let's do 1.7.
You are way high, man.
Is it low? Oh man.
I'm gonna go with 250,000.
All right.
And here's why I'm going with that. There are only 24 million households in the U.S.
You're right. Yeah.
that have a net worth of over $1 million. Okay. Just 24 million. So when we think about these numbers and this article from Bloomberg that says Americans think they need 1.5 million to retire.
Can I give the number?
You can give the number.
Average retirement savings, 65 to 74, 426,000.
All right. So what Americans think they need to retire?
Is that 1.1 million off?
That's 1.1 million off.
You don't know when they retired though.
So
maybe they were a big dog and they had 1.5 million and they spent 1.1 of it.
They didn't have a spending plan. They should have been Jerry with a pension. I think that what this goes to show is everyone has their ideal of what they think they would really like to have.
I think it shows these articles are pointless and clickbait.
Absolutely pointless. Absolutely pointless.
That discrepancy is absurd.
There's so many people where $1.5 million wouldn't even come close to maintaining the lifestyle that they have. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the average American, as we can see, 400,000. Okay.
And the median, the Yeah, the average is higher than the median.
Yeah, sorry, the median.
No,
right.
this is average.
This is average. Okay, yep. So
Oh,
even
well, yeah, the median, yeah.
But the median would be closer to what you
Right.
said with in the 200s, I would imagine.
so I think don't fall in the trap of am I like everyone else? No, you're probably not like everyone else. Especially if you have a net worth over $1 million. You're not like everyone else. You're like one of 24 million households in the U.S. that has done a really good job of saving. Maybe you've started a business and you sold the business or whatever it may be. You've done a very good job. You are lucky. And that doesn't mean that 1.5 million is enough for you, or that doesn't mean you should feel bad that you feel like you need more in order to live your retirement that you're planning. But these numbers, you shouldn't also feel bad if you're listening and you don't have $1.5 million. You might not need it. You might be Jerry and you've got a pension paying you $60,000. If you're a teacher out there, or you're a police officer or fire department, a government worker, and you have a huge pension coming in, you're probably not going to have $1.5 million net worth, and that's perfectly fine because you're going to have a pretty darn large pension, which, as we think about it from the perspective of Jerry and Big Dog, if you have a $5,000 a month pension, that's equivalent to $1.5 million.
Yeah, the present value of that pension is
Right. Yep. So, anyways, clickbait, if you ever see those come along, don't think they will help you in any fashion.
Yeah.
We got one more topic, or two. One and a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Money lost reported to text message scams.
It's all scams, but specifically text message
okay.
scams. Yeah, they lay it out. Before we get into it, have you anyone gotten texts that are scammy?
I've had some pretty clever ones. I've had
Same.
like some UPS. Your package has been delivered, and then you click on the link, and it takes you to a website that looks like UPS. Asks you to put like your address, your tracking number in and stuff to see the package. And the website looks exactly the same, but like you scroll down and you click on like some of the links at the bottom. I'm like, I didn't order anything. So I scroll down and like none of the links on the bottom of the page work. I can't click on the UPS logo to take me to the UPS site. It's just total phishing attempts. They'd be pretty clever though.
I got one the other day, well, probably going back a month or two, and it wasn't. I'm always on alert when I get a non-iMessage text, unless it's Jason. But it said, didn't have any links. It said, I have to cancel lunch today. Can we reschedule? And I was thinking like.
Very innocent. Immediately you're like, oh crap, I forgot to.
You let your guard down immediately.
Yeah, because you feel like the bad guy. You forgot you forgot about
like,
lunch.
I thought about it a little bit and I was like, well, I mean, I got to let this person know they got the wrong number. So I said, I don't know who this is intended for, but I also won't be at lunch. I don't know who you are. And they responded, sorry, wrong number. Thanks so much for replying. How's your day going? To start a conversation. And so
that's very nice of them.
I typed the number into Google and it was suspected spam.
They start out very innocuous.
Yeah.
But they can lead to a lot of damage. And so, what were the numbers on some of this here?
I got one more story. Just the other day, I had a Facebook message from a friend of mine. Obviously, his Facebook got hacked, but it was I lost my cell phone and I need to reset my Facebook password. Can you text me the code? Can I use your cell phone number? And then you text me the code to get in. And I was like, all right. That is so obviously, hey, they want the code. They're going to do some other.
They're using mine.
Something else, yeah.
They're using my Facebook and they want me to send my code because they're logging into my Facebook account. But you know what? Those things are easy to just gloss over and forget.
Yeah.
You know, especially as you get older, your grandparents.
Yep.
It's easy enough for them to not realize it's their grandchild messaging them and asking for something. And so being very aware and honestly talking about what you hear and what you see can have big impact on those around you of whether or not they fall victim to these scams.
The number one in dollars lost was miscellaneous investments and investment advice.
Crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Look at all the reports for business imposters versus the amount. Romance scams. Too,
Romance scams. And that's an important one, like especially with older clients, I feel like.
The number of reports, do we think romance scams are less common than business imposters, or do we just feel that people are scared to report that they fell they fell for a romance scam?
I think it's under reported. I think a lot of these are underreported actually.
Yeah, for sure. You got to adjust for that. At my previous place of employment, my little side story, we had a client who was donating $100,000 to charity. And they were still, it wasn't like a beneficiary thing. It was, they were living and making a donation. They were doing it via wire. Someone got in their email, changed a few digits, and $100,000 went out to a fake account or like an imposter account. Now the client has to take some onus for this. You got to make sure your email's secure, but there's recovery steps you can do for banks. They never confirmed with the charity or anything, and 1 year later was notified by the charity that the money was never received, presumably when they maybe needed something for taxes or, and so 1 year later, I mean, that money's been in 100 different shell accounts and it's gone forever.
It's gone.
100 grand.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Double check if you're sending wires, double check your wire instructions with the sender, especially for like home closings.
This is why we talk on the phone with all of our clients before we send them money or move money in any kind.
And ask why, what's going on, what's there. And we have had romance scams within our clients. They're really easy to fall for. I mean, here's what ends up happening. Somebody loses a loved one. They get the innocuous text message like you did, and it just starts out as an innocent conversation. They're not thinking anything about it, right? And next thing they know, they're months into, a texting relationship. And
why are you looking at me, Austin?
We got to watch out for you.
Yeah.
It can happen. It can happen without even thinking about it.
Romance scam.
I do think it's really important to be aware of your friends and your family and what's going on in their lives, and be their support, because I think these can happen easier than we think.
Can.
I think it's really easy to look at them for and be like, oh, how does anyone fall for these?
Yeah.
But I think there's very much, the behavioral impact that people will fall for them.
People seek friendship.
And they're very good at it, unfortunately. These scams are very good at slow playing this stuff. And so I think it's really important as advisors to make sure we're questioning and talking about and having conversations about these scams, but also having conversations about making sure, hey, what are we kicking money out for? What are we doing? And just trying to be there as much as we can. We can't stop everything, but the more we're open about what's going on and what we're hearing and what we're seeing, the easier it is to stop that kind of stuff.
For sure.
So. All right. We just to wrap this up a little bit.
Who's winning in the Wordle competition in the office?
So
Who
it's
has
a
the all-time tally lead?
It's a weekly game, and I'm not winning.
I think I won the first 12 weeks straight of the year.
I think that's he's embellishing that.
Might have been 10.
Listen, I've gone cold. No way around it. I'll be better.
You're using a do as your first word.
No, I'm not. I do see do is the most common starting word.
It is not a good word to start with, though.
8%, which is a lot, because think of all the 5-letter words, and 8% of them are I do.
I mean, that's
a lot.
That's a lot.
The way we play, though, we have to start on the same starting word. So this data doesn't really apply to us.
It doesn't apply to us. Every day we start with a different word that we have to start with all the same, just to make it interesting. But if
level the playing field, so to speak.
If we were playing,
it's not working enough
to get the word the quickest, It sounds like Crane or what's the other ones they got?
The best ones. So this was completed with a bot.
Crane, Trace. Yeah.
Best to get your consonants first over vowels. It sounds like
It's.
vowels are
I
probably
think it's.
easier to put together.
I think part of it is
Slate, Crane, Trace are giving the bot seal of approval as leading to the solution in the fewest guesses.
the fewest guesses, and I think part of that is when you think about it real simply, it's the combination of the letters and it rules out a lot of other potential options versus
The reason people guess at doing audio obviously is the
all
vowels.
the vowels.
But how many? There's going to be.
They're
there's
not in
a
the
lot
right.
of-
They're not in the right spot.
and there's not a lot of use in
Yeah.
five
Right.
these 5-letter words that they use.
Right.
So I have to be better going forward.
Anyways, I'm the better Wordle player here, and you know what?
I gotta take that. I've been
We'll
bad.
we'll start tracking our weekly wins and losses so that we can put a running tally up here on.
I mean, it's become a financial detriment to me because we play for lunch usually on Fridays.
yes, we do.
And yeah, I've been eating for two a lot.
Man.
So
Cool. Well, that's what we got for you guys this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys again in a couple weeks.
absolutely, thank you.
See you next time.